The badge lanyard felt scratchy against my neck. Cheap nylon, the kind that curls at the edges after too many wears. I tugged at it, pretending to adjust it while my eyes stayed locked on the big screen across the hall. They'd lit it up blue this year, sleek, crisp branding for the company's biggest conference of the year. And right there, under the presentation title in white font, was his name, not mine. Optimizing Legacy Search Pipelines for Real-Time Indexing. Adam L. I was the one who wrote the patch. And not just a patch. It was a full-on architectural fix, a workaround to a nasty concurrency issue that had been clogging up our search pipeline for 2 quarters straight. But Adam was the one up on stage tomorrow. Keynote slot, spotlight presentation. His smug little aw shucks face already plastered on the digital conference app. I took a sip of hotel coffee. Burnt, thin, lukewarm. Even that felt insulting. Backtrack 5 months. I'm a senior back-end engineer at a mid-sized tech firm based out of Chicago. We're not Google, but we're not a garage startup either. Solid benefits, real users, stock options that might mean something one day. My name's Eli. I've been with the company 6 years, long enough to remember when we didn't even have unit tests, long enough to have mentored 3 full dev cycles of juniors, interns, and eager bootcamp grads. Adam joined our team during Q1, a mid-year hire, bright-eyed, full of ideas. Python guy. Came from a fintech startup in Austin that went belly up. He had a great handle on design patterns and a way of speaking in meetings that made even mundane ideas sound like revelations. Management loved him right away. But I didn't dislike him at first. That's important. I didn't start from a place of suspicion. He asked questions. He stayed late. He messaged me after hours with follow-ups, sometimes dumb stuff, sometimes insightful. He was ambitious, sure, but he seemed like someone who wanted to earn his place. I was fine showing him the ropes, until the bug. We'd been having an intermittent slowdown in the legacy search pipeline. Something about the way search terms were being tokenized was interacting weirdly with our caching layer. We'd get these memory spikes, random CPU flares, and latency hits that came in waves, always just long enough to trip the monitoring alerts, never long enough to crash anything permanently. The kind of bug that makes people quietly hate their job. It was my problem, technically. I owned that service. I'd inherited it from a lead who jumped ship for Meta last year. Most folks hated touching that code base, and I didn't blame them. But I knew its rhythms. I knew where the bodies were buried. So I started digging. It took me 3 weeks to isolate the problem, another week to sketch out the fix, and one very, very long Friday night to refactor a whole chunk of the tokenizer's memory management system without blowing up regression tests. It was elegant, thread-safe, logged properly, and it worked. I merged it at 1:12 a.m. on a Saturday morning. The commit message read, "Fix token cache leak plus a streamlined concurrency lock around async prefetch." I posted the link in the team Slack with a quick note. This should close out the search slowdown saga. Appreciate any second eyes next week. Adam reacted with a thumbs up emoji. No one else commented. It didn't matter. The graphs told the story. By Monday, our latency had dropped by 30%. By Wednesday, engineering management pinged me asking for a write-up. I put together a doc, a clean technical recap with charts, flame graphs, before, after metrics, and a few notes on edge case performance. I posted it to the internal wiki. 2 weeks later, I caught Adam giving a product demo to an external partner. I wasn't on the call, but a friend in sales forwarded me the Zoom recording because I'd helped with the onboarding flow he was demoing. And there it was, one slide buried halfway in, recent search improvements, re-architected cache and tokenizer lock for async optimization. No attribution, just that vague "we" wording. He was presenting my fix as a team win. I told myself I was being paranoid. I told myself it didn't matter, that people who know the work know who does the work, that the important thing was the service was faster now, and nobody was yelling about downtime. But I didn't forget. Then came the email. Subject: Congrats! You've been selected to present at ConnectCon 2025. It hit my inbox at 9:43 a.m. on a Wednesday. I read it 3 times, heart thudding. Then I realized it wasn't to me. It was a forward. Adam had gotten the invite. He was going to present the recent improvements to the architecture. The very title of his talk was lifted directly from my wiki post. I sat there staring at the email, my coffee slowly cooling beside me, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I thought about saying something. To him. To my manager. To the director of engineering. But I didn't. Not then. I let the meeting block pass. I didn't reply to the thread. I even sent a quick Gratzman message in Slack. Because that's what you're supposed to do, right? Be a team player. Act like it's no big deal. But I saved the wiki post. I backed up the code diff. I downloaded the Zoom demo, just in case. Back to now. The conference is in Vegas. 3-day corporate tech fest. Keynotes, panels, product booths, networking mixers with bad wine, and worse small talk. Our whole team was flown out. Expenses paid. Adam got a suite. I got a standard room with a broken desk lamp and a view of the HVAC vents. It's the night before his talk. He's at the bar downstairs, holding court with 3 engineers from a European AI firm and 1 recruiter from Amazon. I can hear his voice, even from the lobby. Loud, confident, dripping with charm. I'm on the mezzanine, holding a drink I haven't touched, watching the screen rotate through tomorrow's schedule. His face keeps flashing next to the words, "Deep Dive Breakthroughs." There's a little part of me that keeps asking, am I overreacting? Am I just bitter? Is this what happens when you stop playing the game? Then I remember something. A little Slack message, one I almost forgot. The week after the bug fix went live, Adam messaged me, "Hey, mind if I use some of your search metrics for a deck I'm building for a mentorship thing? No details, just the general latency stuff." I said, "Sure." That was the only message I ever got about it. I never saw the deck. I never heard about the mentorship thing again. And now I'm here. He's presenting my fix to a room full of decision makers tomorrow. He'll get questions. He'll get praise. He'll get connections. And I'll be in the audience, sitting in the second row, pretending I don't feel like a ghost in my own work. But I didn't come to Vegas to sit quietly. I brought something with me. His presentation deck, pulled from the conference submission portal, where I just happened to have admin access, and the original commit trail, mine, not his, and the wiki logs, and the timestamped Slack messages. I didn't come here to start a fight, but I'm starting to think, maybe I won't let it slide this time. Don't rock the boat, Eli. It's just how the game's played. That's what Kelsey said when I called her from the airport lounge the night before the flight out. She used to be my lead before she transferred to the San Francisco office. Kelsey's sharp, smarter than me in some ways, better at navigating the political crap that comes with mid-level engineering. But in that moment, her words felt like sand in my teeth. "Yeah? Whose game?" I asked. She didn't answer. I didn't blame her. People who make it up the ladder usually learn early on. Don't challenge the ones who know how to smile while they're stepping on your name. I didn't sleep much the night before Adam's talk. I lay in the hotel bed staring at the popcorn ceiling, half listening to the low hum of the air conditioner. The room smelled like industrial detergent and carpet glue. I'd been scrolling through the presentation schedule again, looking for any reason not to go. But I already knew I would. I had to. Not because I was looking for some big showdown. I'm not wired that way. but because something in me had turned over since the day that email came in. Not anger exactly. Something quieter, heavier, like I'd swallowed a stone and now it just sat there, refusing to move. 9:15 a.m., conference room 3A. The crowd was bigger than I expected, maybe 50, maybe 60 people. Folding chairs, mostly full, badges from 3 different continents, a few exec tags near the front. The projector was already lit, title screen waiting. Optimizing legacy search pipelines for real-time indexing. Adam L., Software Engineer 2. I sat in the second row, 2 seats from the aisle. No one sat beside me. Adam walked in 5 minutes before the slot, wearing that company-branded quarter zip he loved. He had a tall coffee in hand, his posture loose, confident. He scanned the room like he was already picturing the applause. When he saw me, his smile faltered just slightly. A microsecond's worth. Then he nodded. I nodded back. He started with a joke. Something about spaghetti code and needing a bigger fork. It landed well enough. A few chuckles. Then he transitioned into the challenge. Legacy search architecture, inconsistent latency, high CPU load under multi-tenant access. All true. All the right words. Then he pulled up the first slide of the fix, and that's when my hands started to sweat. It was my diagram. My exact architecture flow, down to the arrow colors. I'd made it in Lucidchart on a Sunday afternoon while my wife folded laundry beside me on the couch. I even remembered how she asked if I wanted to order Thai or Mexican that night. He hadn't even changed the labels. The async prefetch queue, the token cache pool segmentation, the fallback retry path, all mine. He talked through it like it was a class project, smooth, practiced, like it came from a place of deep personal insight. He name-dropped our internal service names like war stories, even added a little fun fact about how we initially considered rewriting the tokenizer from scratch, but opted for a more elegant lock rework. We? There was no we. He didn't touch the code. He didn't review the PR. He barely commented on the postmortem. But here he was, fielding nods from people who'd never touched that pipeline, acting like he'd rescued a burning system with nothing but duct tape and brilliance. I felt my face tighten. I reached for the notebook I'd brought, just a cheap one I'd grabbed from the hotel desk, and started writing. Not notes on the talk, just timestamps. 9:17 a.m. Flow diagram pulled directly from Wiki. 9:20 a.m. Mentions rollback safety as best practice. My regression note. 9:23 a.m. We merged it early Q2. I merged it. Solo March 8th. I didn't even realize I was clenching the pen so hard until my palms started to cramp. He wrapped up at 9:27. Clean, crisp, right on time. Applause. And then came the Q&A. The first question was a softball. A woman from a health tech company asked if he'd considered porting the architecture to Go. He laughed, deflected, said it was a future discussion point. More laughs. The second question came from a director at our parent company's European branch. He asked how the team handled thread contention around the async job queue, especially under real-time indexing load. Adam paused. He didn't know. He stumbled for just a second, then fell back on the classic. Yeah, so that was one of the more nuanced challenges. We spent a lot of time experimenting with various lock strategies before landing on something that worked well under load. I think the real breakthrough came when we realized the bottleneck wasn't where we expected. It was technically not false, but it was a masterclass in vague. That was when I raised my hand. He saw it. The look on his face didn't change, but his fingers shifted slightly on the mic, like he wasn't sure whether to call on me or not, but he had to. Too many eyes. Yeah, Eli? He said, still casual. My voice came out steady. Not loud, not angry. Quick question. When you say we, Can you clarify who that included? For example, who implemented the segmented cache pooling system you mentioned on slide 6? The room quieted. Not all the way, but enough. Adam hesitated, then forced a smile. Right. Good question. So, like I said, a lot of this was a team effort, and I definitely had help from... I implemented that, I said. You messaged me asking if you could use some of the metrics in a mentorship deck. That was 6 weeks before this conference proposal was submitted. Another pause. People were looking between us now. I flipped open the notebook, held it up. I have the timestamps, the commit history, the original flowchart. I just wanted clarity on whether you were going to mention that in your closing. He blinked. And for a moment, just a flicker, I saw something I hadn't expected. Shame. But it passed, quickly replaced with something else. Not quite anger, more like calculation. He smiled again, but it didn't reach his eyes. Yeah, totally. And Eli deserves a huge shout out. I meant to get to that at the end, actually. We've had a lot of back and forth on this, and he did some fantastic groundwork that helped shape the solution. Definitely wouldn't have gotten here without his early contributions. Early contributions? He was framing it like I'd handed him an outline, and he'd run with it. Like I'd been the junior, and he'd brought it home. I nodded once, then leaned back. Let it go. For now. People clapped again, a little more awkwardly this time. A few side glances. One guy 2 rows back gave me a subtle thumbs up. Adam rapped with a thank you slide. I stood and walked out before the room cleared. In the hallway, a woman caught up to me. She wore a security badge. Internal conference operations. Said her name was Marisol. Hey, that was... something. You okay? I nodded. Just tired of watching people pretend. She hesitated, then held out a small business card. You didn't hear this from me, but the keynote deck submissions are versioned and time-stamped in the CMS. If your diagram showed up in there before your original wiki post, that's one thing, but if not... She didn't finish. I took the card. Appreciate it. As I walked away, I thought about Kelsey's voice. Again, saying not to rock the boat. And I realized something. The boat was already sinking. I just finally stopped pretending it was a wave pool. The flash drive wasn't heavy, just honest. It sat in the side pocket of my laptop bag, exactly where I'd tucked it before the flight, labeled in permanent marker. Search Fix Origins Zip. It wasn't dramatic, just a handful of PDFs, code diffs, and a screen recording of the terminal while I ran the final regression test. But the truth doesn't need special effects. It just needs a place to land. And now I had one. The CMS lead's name was Jorge. He had the kind of tired eyes that come from too many late-night deployments and not enough thank yous. I'd met him once before at a regional dev summit. He'd given a lightning talk on caching headers and ended with a deadpan joke about HTTP 3. I remembered him because he was the only one who didn't try to sell anything afterward. I pinged him through our internal Slack on the second night of the conference. Me. Hey Jorge, quick thing. Need eyes on a CMS artifact timestamp. Keynote deck, file ID ending 2E49C. Can we confirm when it was uploaded and by who? He didn't respond right away. It was late. I didn't expect him to. But he replied the next morning at 7:42 a.m., right as I was pouring burnt coffee from the breakfast buffet into a paper cup. Jorge, upload log shows Adamel submitted the deck June 4th at 11:13 p.m. That help? Why? Something wrong? I stared at the message, thought about what to say. Then I typed, let's just say the deck uses a diagram I created from a wiki post published June 6th, and my original file was created May 29th. There was a beat. Then, got it. Want a screen cap of the logs? I didn't even ask. He just sent it. A cropped image from the internal content submission portal. Timestamps. User ID. File hash. No way to fake it. I dropped the file into my drive folder under a new directory, QNF225 evidence. Then I sat on it. Here's the part I didn't expect. I didn't feel good. I thought maybe I would. That seeing it confirmed, seeing the proof that I wasn't just bitter or paranoid, would settle something. That it would click into place and turn my frustration into validation. But it didn't. It just made everything heavier. Because now I had to decide what to do with it. And there's no user manual for that. Thursday night. Last night of the conference. They held the wrap party at a rooftop bar with too loud music and too slick floors. Open bar, LED bracelets, corporate people trying to pretend they were young again. I stood near the railing, sipping something sour with a lime wedge, watching the city lights blur into static. Adam found me around 10. He didn't lead with small talk. "Look, yeah," he said, "I know you're pissed." I didn't look at him. I just let him talk. I should have looped you in on the talk. I didn't expect it to get accepted. I figured it was just a way to share what we've been doing on the team. "You didn't share what we did," I said. "You shared what I did, without asking." He sighed. "You really think this is how it works, Eli? That anyone cares who wrote the exact lines? It's about presenting the idea, the story. That's what these talks are." "No," I said, finally looking at him. "That's what you made it." He took a step back. The glow from the neon ring lights caught the tension in his jaw. "You're not going to blow this up, are you?" That was it. The line. He wasn't sorry. He was afraid I might tell someone who mattered, someone above us both, someone who could subtract a line from his resume. I didn't answer. Instead, I pulled the flash drive from my pocket and turned it over in my hand. "I'm not going to blow it up," I said, "but I'm not letting it slide either." "What does that mean?" "It means I'll be talking to Rachel on Monday." His eyes flicked wide. "Rachel was our director of engineering. She doesn't care about code commits," he said. "She cares about integrity," I replied, "and I'm going to show her everything. When I made it, when you asked for metrics, when you uploaded your deck." He opened his mouth, closed it, tried again. "Come on, man. Don't do this. You know how it'll look." "Yeah," I said, "I do." Then I left him standing there. Friday morning. The conference ended with a final panel. I didn't go. I booked an earlier flight. On the plane, I opened my laptop and pulled up my notes. I started writing an email. Not angry, not defensive, just facts, timestamps, Slack messages, screenshots. I ended it with a simple line. "I'm not asking for anything. I just want my work represented honestly." I didn't hit send yet. I still wasn't sure what I wanted from all this, but I knew what I didn't want. I didn't want to sit through another quarter watching people get rewarded for being louder instead of better. I didn't want to keep swallowing this feeling like it was just part of the job. I didn't want to be that guy who stays quiet because it's easier. When the plane touched down, I opened my inbox and saw a new message from Jorge. Subject: FYI, someone else asked about your deck. Inside was a forward from the internal conference feedback form. Someone had anonymously flagged Adam's talk for lack of attribution. Maybe I wasn't the only one watching after all. Halfway through brushing my teeth Monday morning, I got the Slack ping. It wasn't from Adam. It was Rachel, Director of Engineering. No emojis, no vague, "let's connect when you have a sec." Just Rachel L., 8:13 a.m. "Can you join me for a quick chat at 9? I rinsed, spat, and stared at my reflection for a beat longer than I meant to. My mouth tasted like mint and nerves. She never messaged like that. Not unless something had already moved beyond informal. I didn't answer right away. I needed to make sure I had everything squared away. Laptop, USB backup, a Google Drive folder I'd set to private view only, each file titled and timestamped. I didn't want to go in hot. This wasn't about throwing Adam under a bus. I wasn't swinging for revenge. I just didn't want to carry someone else's name on my work anymore. 8:59 a.m. Conference room D7. Rachel was already seated, laptop open, mug in hand. Window behind her throwing soft morning light across the table. She was the kind of manager who rarely blinked when she asked hard questions and never flinched when you gave honest answers. She nodded toward the chair across from her. Thanks for coming in. Yeah, no problem. She closed the laptop. I saw your email, she said. All of it. No preamble. I'd sent it Sunday night after rereading it for the 8th time. It was lean, factual, attached with exhibits like a legal memo, a commit trail, the lucid chart source file metadata, screenshots of Adam's Slack messages, and a side-by-side comparison of his deck and my wiki post. I expected skepticism, or corporate spin. What I didn't expect was this. You should have come to me earlier. Her tone wasn't angry, it was disappointed, but not in me. I didn't want it to be a thing, I said. At first I thought maybe I was overreacting, but when I saw him speak, and the way he dodged the question about attribution, it felt deliberate. It was, she said. That caught me off guard. You're not the first person to flag Adam for credit creep. I blinked. Seriously? She nodded. 2 other engineers, separate teams, smaller stuff, code comments, strategy notes, product doc phrasing. Always just subtle enough to slide. Always brushed off as team collaboration. But this? She tapped the laptop. This is different. There was a beat. Then she said the words I didn't think I'd hear. We're opening a formal inquiry. I wasn't sure how to respond. She continued, I want to be clear. We're not talking about firing someone off the bat, but we do take attribution and professional ethics seriously, especially when it involves public-facing material. I nodded slowly. Thank you, I said. She held my gaze. You're not wrong to be angry, Eli, but I'm glad you came in calm. That'll matter. The fallout started faster than I expected. By Tuesday, Adam's conference deck had been pulled from the internal portal. A note appeared next to it. Under review for content revision. Presenter update pending. By Thursday, the team was notified that a new documentation workflow was being put in place. No external decks without a peer reviewer. All conference proposals now needed explicit co-author consent for any team-contributed work, and by the following Monday, Adam was moved to a different project team. He didn't speak to me. Not in the halls, not on Slack, not even a passive-aggressive emoji on shared threads. But he saw me. That much I could tell. He knew exactly what I'd done, what I'd not let go. The conversation that stuck with me most wasn't with Rachel. It was with Liana, one of the newer front-end devs who had only been on the team 3 months. We'd crossed paths during a bug triage meeting, and afterward, she caught me by the coffee machine. I heard what happened, she said quietly, with Adam. I tensed, unsure where she was going, but she gave a small smile. Thanks. Seriously. I raised an eyebrow. For what? For proving someone could actually speak up and not get steamrolled. It hit me sideways. Because that was it, wasn't it? It wasn't about just this one fix, this one stolen diagram or slide deck. It was about all the quiet moments we let someone take an inch, hoping they wouldn't take the mile. And about what it means when someone finally says no. HR followed up in week 3. The inquiry concluded with a formal reprimand. Adam was asked to retract his talk submission from the ConnectCon YouTube channel, and his conference presenter line was removed from the company's internal News Blast archive. He didn't get fired. He didn't even get demoted. But his trajectory changed. People noticed. And I noticed how meetings started going differently after that. When I spoke up, people listened longer. When I pushed back, it stuck. Not because I got louder, but because people finally understood I had the receipts. I didn't expect to be asked to present. But 4 weeks after the inquiry closed, Rachel pulled me aside. "We're pitching for a regional DevX summit in the fall," she said. "Your name came up. Would you be willing to give a talk on the actual tokenizer fix?" My first instinct was no. I hate public speaking. I'm a builder, not a presenter. But then I remembered how it felt in that conference room in Vegas, second row, watching someone else profit off my work. I said yes. Not for applause, not for revenge, for something quieter. Ownership. The night before my talk, I found the original flash drive again. I didn't need it anymore. Everything was already in the cloud. But I kept it anyway. It wasn't heavy, just honest. I never wanted to be the kind of guy who needed credit. But you'd be surprised how fast that changes when someone else's name gets stapled to your work. It creeps up on you. The way your inbox stays quiet after a big win. The way people stop looping you in on follow-ups. The way someone else becomes the face of a solution you bled weekends into. And the first time it happens, you tell yourself it's not worth making noise. The second time, you start documenting. The third time, you show up with proof. The DevX Summit was in October. Local, thankfully. A 2-day regional event held in a repurposed library-turned-convention space just off Lakeshore. Less glitter than Vegas, more caffeine and quiet ambition. The kind of crowd that asked real questions and actually listened to the answers. I'd practiced the talk enough that the words started to lose meaning, but it still didn't feel real until I was backstage, mic clipped to my collar, heart punching like a fist behind my ribs. 30 minutes, one room, 50 engineers, all waiting for me. The lights felt surgical, the kind that make you forget how to blink. I opened with a story, not the scandal, not the drama, just the architecture problem, a memory leak, a concurrency lock, a bottleneck that didn't show up until we scaled past a certain threshold, the kind of bug that hides like a roach behind a fridge. And then I walked them through the fix, line by line, choice by choice. And I made sure to say something I wish I'd heard more often in my early career. You won't always get credit for the fixes that work the best, because the best ones disappear quietly. No crashes, no postmortems. But don't let that stop you from building them. They clapped. Not wild applause, not standing ovation, but the kind of clap that means people felt something. Afterward, a guy in his mid-20s came up to me. Badge said Amar, startup out of Ann Arbor. "I've been on the other end of this," he said. Had a product lead present my data layer as part of his prototype last year. Got invited to Investor Day. I got pizza. I laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it wasn't surprising. He looked at the floor, then back at me. So thanks for not letting it slide. Later that week, Rachel called me in again. Same room, same mug on the table. "I heard great things about your talk," she said. "Thanks. I didn't throw any chairs," I joked. She smiled. "Listen, I've been thinking about something." I braced myself. These conversations usually went one of two ways. Either you were being asked to take on more work for the same title, or you were getting moved around like chess pieces on a roadmap. But she surprised me. "We're building out a new mentoring pod," she said. "Technical leads rotating across teams to support junior devs on architecture patterns, debugging, communication. The whole thing. It's not a promotion, yet, but it's a stepping stone." I didn't answer right away. I thought about Adam. I thought about every time I'd been too quiet, too polite, too hands-off with junior devs because I assumed they'd play fair. And I thought about how different things might have been if someone had stepped in sooner. Not to call people out, but to show them better. "I'm in," I said. Adam left the company 4 months later. No drama, no farewell lunch, just a quiet update on Slack. Adam L. has left the company. We wish him the best in his next chapter. I heard through someone in DevOps that he took a role at a blockchain startup in Miami. A founder's friend kind of deal. I didn't reach out. Not out of bitterness, just closure. Sometimes people exit the story not with a bang, but with the right amount of distance. 6 months later, I got a message from Jorge, the CMS guy, quiet legend. Jorge: hey, just FYI, I'm up for a talk at ConnectCon this year. Different track. You presenting again? Me: thinking about it. You? Jorge: yeah, about internal tooling, audit trails, and attribution integrity. Me: you're kidding. Jorge: nope. You'd be surprised how many people ask about tracking edits after last year. Me: glad I could inspire paranoia. Jorge: nah, man, you inspired receipts. So here's the thing I've learned. It's not about the credit. Not really. It's about the trail, the audit log, the unsent message, the coworker who noticed, the time-stamped folder on a flash drive you almost threw away. It's about knowing you built something solid and being ready to prove it when someone else tries to wear your work like a costume. If I could go back, I'd still build the fix, even knowing how it played out. Because building something that works, that's the part no one can steal. If this story moved you, subscribe for more real-life confessions and emotional journeys like this one.